is February 11th, 2025. My name is Joey Ragona. How are you? It is heart-centered marketing for another week into 2025. I am super excited to bring in my good friend Lauren Jawno today because we were just talking offline here and we were talking about all the ideas flowing into our head, which was perfectly set up for today's conversation. But before we do that, hi, Lauren. How are you?
Hey, Joey. It's so good to see you. I love this. Is like our time to connect. It's like kind of cool. Not kind
It
of, it is
is.
cool. I love
It,
it.
it's oh, I love it. I love it. I had a conversation with another colleague friend of mine yesterday, and she was saying that she never really gets a chance to have conversations like this one on one with another entrepreneur, and we feel so isolated. And this is one of the ways that at least I get out into the world to share our inner dialogue with the world, right? And we
Hmm.
get to bounce ideas off of each other, so it's kind of a win all the way around. So thank you
Totally.
for being here live. If you are live, let us know by hashtag replay. And I forgot to set up my iPad to get the thing. So I'm going to do that while I'm looking around, trying to do two things at once. So let me just try to introduce today's topic. Um, I won't try, I will. That's so crazy. What am I doing? Um, it's been a whirlwind for me in the last little while, last couple of years, maybe even more than that, of information overload. And I have this creative brain, and it's never, well, I shouldn't say never, but it's always on fire. Like there's always things happening, there's always these ideas coming in. And the world, as you know, has given us a lot more information in the last few years, and it's not getting any slower. I think that if you look back at the world in the last 5 years and think about, and this is not you, but everybody listening, just think about for a second how much information you've gotten and how fast things have gotten in the last 5 years, and ask yourself this question: do you think it's going to get slower or faster going into the future? I know what my answer is. I don't know what yours would be, but this is why we're inundated with all this information. What do you think, Lauren?
We are totally inundated. And I know from the people and that I work with, the clients that I work with, and even for myself, there's also a lot of conflicting information, which can just, I know for me, get
Hmm.
so frustrating. And so, yes, there's overload and you can go down so many rabbit holes. And I think that's why you've got to have that discipline of, you can have lots of ideas, but, are they all kind of going in the same direction? I think.
Yeah, yeah. And you were saying that before we got on the call. By the way, shout out to Collie. I see you here. If you are here live, let us know. Hashtag live, hashtag replay. If you're watching on the replay, let me actually bring up another window here so I can see the comments. There we go. Hey, Laura. There she is. Lorna is live. Thank you, Lorna, as well. I see you. Thank you for being here live.
Hey, Lorna.
Um, okay, so you were saying before we went live that you have a different brain and you're interested in this conversation. So explain that a little bit so we get the context and then we can go into conversation.
It's been so interesting because I thought I have a different brain than I have. And it's been interesting to discover that. So I never saw myself as a creative person. I was always like, 'cause I'm very A-type, and I's dotted, T's crossed. There's one way, and so I've just always been like almost that person with blinkers on. Give me a project, and I'll stay in the lane, and I'll do it right.
Yes,
And
yes.
so there wasn't really room for creativity because a lot of it was coaching, and I know coaching that, and so learning coaching, I love learning, but it's not necessarily creative or a creative outlet, right? And I've always had lots of projects on the go, but again, it's not ideas, it's not creative, it's just I've got these things to do, get a plan, and I'm going to do it. And then at the end of, what are we in, 2025? End of
Yeah.
2023, I took some time out and I'd started writing a blog for my dog, like, probably not a blog. I'd started like just, I was always posting like updates about him on Facebook. It was more for me to keep, a record of his life. And then they just started getting longer, and it was more like personal development-y, and people were loving it. And so when I took the time off, I thought, you know what, let me start a little blog for him. And then I go, I'll get someone to make the website, and I can hardly do PowerPoint, right? And I go, well, there's no fun in that. So, cut a long story short, like by the end of that time, I had built a website myself, granted, very basic, and I'd designed it and I had started writing, and I got so much joy out of it, and the ideas just didn't stop coming, and I loved it. And then, you know, I switched direction in January, and I go, oh my God, you got to get back on track and back to what you know, and this is this one thing and one lane. And the whole year I could feel that resistance. And I didn't allow myself to do the blog because I thought, no, you got to do this other stuff. You got to stay where you are. And then again, towards the end of last year, I started writing again. And then I decided, oh, because I was behind and I tried to do one every month. And so it was stressing me out and going, just got to catch up. And so I did, but then I wanted to redo the website. And so I got all creative-y, and I was like so happy doing it. And I realized, look at your website. These blogs you're writing are really cute, cool. And so I go, oh, maybe you're creative. And then I also realized that last year, the whole of last year, I was trying to put a square peg in a round hole. And that's why I wasn't getting any, well, I think that's part of the reason I wasn't getting any traction. And so I decided this literally just 2, maybe 3 weeks ago, you know what? You've got nothing to lose. Go where you want to go and see what happens. And it's like my brain has exploded with ideas. I mean, today I was supposed to hop on a 15-minute call with someone for 3 hours. We were doing something together, and it doesn't stop. And so I don't know what the point of this is, but I thought it was one way, but now that this has kind of been unleashed, I can relate to what you were saying earlier about how do you rein it in? Like if you've got so many ideas and they all seem like great, like how do you navigate that? And I'm kind of getting a taste of that for the first time. So it's been interesting. Oh, I can't hear you, Joey.
Oh, I muted myself there for a second.
Okay, there we
go. I like what you said, because I'm sure a lot of people resonate with what you're saying. And, you know, there's an important piece to what you said there that I hope everyone really took in, because it was that resistance of doing what you think that you should be doing. And as soon as you fell into something that you love, all of a sudden the doors open up and it's like, you've got all these creative ideas. It's because you're sitting in what you love, you know. And a lot of times one of the big things that I hear is there's so many moving parts. I don't know. I'm not clear on the path. I don't know what to focus on. And because I deal with, you know, a lot of people who are building online programs and trying to figure out what it is, where they want to go. And even today, on today's Academy call, we had a discussion about this, and it was, because almost everybody that it's uncanny now. I'm beginning to realize that a lot of my clients are ADD like me, so in some way, shape, or form. So it's really cool because this is what I live and breathe every day. And so, one of the clients was, you know, I just don't know what to do because I have all these ideas coming at me all day long. How do you deal with that? And one of the ways that I explained how to deal with it, or how I deal with it, is I call it the parking lot, which is to write down all the ideas and just make sure that they're out of your head, because as ADD people, we lose things real quick. And I think it's just a normal human reaction to the way that your brain works is that you don't want to forget things, even if you're not ADD. So you're thinking about, well, the garbage goes out on Friday, I got to remember that. And like, even if it's at the back of your brain, it's filling up all this area, which impedes, is that the right word? Or blocks, let's use the word blocks, creativity, because you've got all this other stuff. But as soon as you start letting things go, and you know that you said to your brain, don't worry, if we want to find out what I was thinking about last Monday, I wrote it down over here, let's go get it. And that's kind of one of the big secrets, or if you want to call it a secret, that I've done for, I don't know, over a decade now, because I've dumped everything out of my head. Like Every day now I do a brain dump, whereas before, when I first started this, it was a big brain dump once every 3 months, and sit down. And there, I still do that in a
Yeah.
sense, but now because I do brain dumps all day long with ideas, I'm able to get things done. And I'm in traction. I just told you before. Now I'm doing my time sensitive stuff, and I'm on fire. Like, you can't stop me right now. It's like, where did you get all this energy? And the energy comes from getting the ideas and dumping them into a place that is a parking lot for me. And like, I'll get to that later. I'll get to that later, knowing that I'm not going to forget it, because that was the biggest thing for me. And I don't know about anybody else, how they feel. And I'd love to hear from you, by the way, in the chat. Thank you. I see. How do you pronounce your name? Teen Jazz? How do you pronounce that first name? Wow, that's a really cool name. Add this to the broadcast here. How would you pronounce that name?
I don't know.
Teen? Is it Teen?
I don't
Wow,
know.
cool. Anyway,
Maybe she
welcome.
can. Maybe they can do it phonetically for us.
Yeah, phonetically, just let us know how to pronounce your name. That's a really cool name. So anyway, yeah. And Collie's here with us as well. She's on the Facebooks, I think. Cool. So that's the first thing. Where was I? That's ADD again.
So the brain dump.
Yeah. So then, go ahead.
No, so there were a couple of things that you said that I want to tag on.
Yeah, go ahead.
So what you said about, when you love what you're doing. And so for me, it wasn't what I was doing, it was how I was doing it. I was doing what I loved last year, but I wasn't doing it how I love it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And that was like the huge shift.
Okay.
And then so a lot of clients that I've worked with are like similar to you. They've got so many ideas and I don't know which one to do, and got all these things going on. And so what I've discovered with most of them, and I don't think this is your case because I know you pretty well, is so I love the parking lot idea. I've suggested it as well, or just keep a journal, and as things come up, write it down so you don't, because when you jump from one thing to another, you don't get anything done, right?
Right.
And so, but on a more like psychological level, what I noticed with a lot of my clients is that having all the ideas was subconsciously an excuse not to fail, right? Because nothing got enough traction that it reached that point where it works or it doesn't. But as long as I'm working on these ideas and I'm doing all these things, then I feel good because I'm doing stuff. But for a lot of them, it was an unconscious, like keeping them safe. Does that make sense?
It does. Yes, it does.
And so that's important to, and again, like if we're honest with ourselves, we'll know if that's happening or not. And if it is, then, then that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to.
Are you the type of person that when you start a project, you finish the project and then move on to the next project?
Yes, but
Generally.
I'm now in a, yes, but now I'm in a, that's not happening. But yes, I like to dig my teeth into something. I like to start and finish things. I am not good, and I seldom do it where I've got an hour, I'll just work on this. I want to have 3-4 hours, big chunks of time. And so when I've just got an hour, I typically don't dig into the big stuff.
Okay. Does that stop you from doing a project because you figure that it's going to take longer than an hour to do? Would that be part of the procrastination?
It's not. No, it's not. I know it will take longer because it's like it's a big project, right? But I just feel in an hour, I'm not going to get deep enough into it, which is not true. Deep enough into it, or it's more that I'm going to get frustrated after an hour that I have to stop, because once I get going, I get going.
Right.
And so it's almost like, it's kind of like when I used to run marathons and I got injured and they said you can only run 5K. I go, I'm not even getting out of bed for 5K, right? For what? And so it's kind of the same thing. It's just, I'm not going to want to stop, and then I'm just going to be frustrated, and I rather.
So then you're talking about like inserting a project between something else, like let's say coaching calls. Like you got coaching calls, then you've got an hour and a half break or something, and you're like, I'm not going to start this thing for an hour because I'm only going to have to
Right.
stop and then go do. Is that right? Okay.
Yes. So I get all my other stuff like admin, return calls, return
Yeah.
emails,
Okay.
so that when I'm done at the end of the day or whenever it is, then all that other stuff is hopefully taken care of, and then I can
Got it.
spend as much time as I want, on
I get
it.
that too. Yeah. So, and I'd love to hear from anybody who has a question about this or some comments of how you operate, because everybody's brain is different. Everybody operates
Everyone's
differently,
different.
and I'm a big fan of doing focus sessions. But I have found too that when I do my focus sessions and I take that 10-minute break, so I do 10, 10, and 20. Yeah, is it 10, 10, 20 or yeah, 10, 20, 10. So I take a 10-minute break in the first round, then I take a 20-minute break the second round. So I usually get within 2 hours, I got a half an hour break, which is amazing. And so when I'm in a focus session, I get way more done than I ever thought I would ever get. That's the first thing. But then
That's for
like
sure.
you, yeah, and then when I'm on the roll, sometimes this is where I get distracted, but I want to give permission, if I can use that word, to people who have more ADD and think that, again, there's no right or wrong. I'm just going to tell you from the way that I operate this,
Yeah.
because I am not that person who finishes a project from start to finish. I have multiple projects going on. Now, that could be a problem if you have many, many multiple projects, if that's such a word,
Right.
right? Now, I think it's okay to have 3 projects going on as long as you're kind of moving forward. And I'll give you an example of this, because let's say that I am doing bookkeeping reconcile, like, and I got to do last year's books, right? I got to go, okay, I got to catch up. I got to do 12 months of this. And and then when I finish that, I'll be able to, I'll be able to do the reports and all this kind of stuff. So when I'm on a roll in that, because it takes a lot of energy for me to get into that mode at all right away, I might hit the end within that hour. I'll be able to do that, right? Because it's not that hard. It's like I don't have a lot of stuff to do. But
Right.
anyway, let's say I finish it, then I will continue to go to the next year to finish it or whatever's going on, because I'm in that momentum and in that frame of mind. Whereas someone looking from the outside in might go, dude, all you had to do was the 1 year. Do you need to catch up? There's other pieces of that project that is more important than you continuing to reconcile or whatever going forward. Does that make sense? But I'm like, no, I'm in this frame of mind, and right now I need to finish this. So that's area number
Yes.
one.
Yes, I'm the same. Yeah.
And then so I bounce. So sometimes on the other side of this, I can't stand to have more. I can't stand to have more focus sessions. Lorna says, yeah, I love them. On the other side of this, the focus sessions, what they help me do is I will get things done, and then I'll get that dopamine rush because I'm like, wow, look at how much I got done. And then I might get bored, or I might need a different dopamine. I might need a different, hit. So I
Yes.
move on to something else and move forward in that one. And I look at that and go, way to go, Joey. You did it, right? And so that's what I mean by anyone listening who can understand that piece of it. Because I don't think you operate like that, Lauren, right? Or I could be wrong.
No, but before I go to that, I swear you're reading my mind.
Okay.
Because I wanted to say a similar thing, but in a slightly different context. So,
Cool, cool.
I mean, I can get like, I don't know if you get this, but your brain gets tired. I don't know, like at some point, like, right? And so what studies have shown is like to minimize that, like say by the end of the day, if you alternate the type of thinking, right? So if I
Yes.
spend an hour doing like analytical stuff, and then I don't do hours, I'm not good at that, and then a block of time doing creative stuff, it your brain doesn't get that mental fatigue. So that's one thing. So you basically were saying that. And then the other thing is about which is a little bit different, is multitasking, right? So what, I don't know if people realize this, but they think when they're multitasking, oh, I'll do this for 5 minutes and then I'll quickly do this, right? And it doesn't matter, but it does, because if you're working on one thing and then you just jump to something for 5 minutes, your whole thinking and your brain has to shift. So it doesn't kick into
Exactly.
gear immediately with that. So you're not operating at the best. Then when you come back to the other one, it's the same thing. So you think you're not wasting time, but you are, in the sense that you are, because your brain's not getting into it like straight away. And so that's something I think just important to keep in mind.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Because I know the studies, everybody's got a different study on this, or the time it takes to refocus on the task that you were just on. But it's
Right.
around 10 to 15 minutes, believe it or not. When you jump to over here and you're like doing this and you come back over here to, again, get back into that different mode, refocus, that's about a 10-minute thing and back and forth all day. And that's why you're wasting so much time, which is one of the
Yes.
reasons why I like to do when I'm in that mode and I'm like, I don't want to stop this now. I may as well just go do this now, even though I'm sacrificing what's really urgent in that moment of that project, whatever it is. I know that I can use that same strategy the other way around. So when I start whatever it is doing reports, and I'm going to just do reports, and I may not stop at that current report time. I might go into reports that are maybe done that are due next year or something like that. And I've also found that because of that, and because I get behind in a lot of stuff, which is not a great strategy, but but I found now that I'm looking back at things and looking at whatever it is. Oh wow, I've already done that report because of this strategy I did years ago, right? I'm like, oh, I don't have to do these anymore, right? So I'm already kind
Yeah.
of halfway caught up because of that. I don't even know what to call it, but just another way of dealing with the momentum and how to get into momentum. Um, yeah. So then that's one way. Let me just look at the comments here and here and down here. All right. If you do have a comment, let us know in the comment section, or and give us a hashtag live or a hashtag replay if you're watching on the replays.
I have a question for you.
Yes, go ahead.
So when you've got all these ideas, would you say they're equally important? Or you've got different ideas, you know that some will either have more traction or more urgent and others are not, and you find that you spend more time or veer more easily to, I guess, the ones with more weight than the others? I'm just curious how, like, you
Mm.
switch, how you choose to switch from one to another.
Are you see? It depends on how you're asking this. If you're asking whether it's, yeah, it depends on the context. Is it a task? Is it a project? Is it a creative idea? Like there's a whole bunch of stuff that's
So
I need more
it's,
context to answer the
yeah, so
question.
let's say it's three different things that are all viable, they're all great ideas, you love them all, right?
Are we talking about creative?
Yes, or creative, or something that's it's not necessarily creative, but it's something that you love and it could benefit your career or it could benefit you financially, and it is something you love and you're passionate about. It might not be creative like writing, that kind of creative. How do you manage like different, if you had three different things like that on the go, for example? Or maybe you don't. Maybe yours is
Yeah,
all creative.
yeah. I mean, it's funny you ask this question because again, I'm going back to today's call on Academy, and we were like, how do you deal with all of these things going on? And so I'll answer the question in the context of building the business, and then maybe it'll bring it to personal or other ideas. But and it goes back to what we talked about, I think, a couple of weeks back, where it was the 12-week year. Remember, we talked
Oh,
about,
yes, yes, yeah.
right? So it was that. It was like, what's the goal for the year, and what's the goal for this quarter? And so because I have all these ideas, and same as my client today, we were like, just write down what's the goal, and let's just make it a monetary thing that you want to make 20 grand or something in this quarter, right? And what is the thing that's going to make the 20 grand? Let's call it creating a course, okay? And that's it. Or in this case, it was a membership. So let me just give the real example.
Okay.
It was I need, 15 people or something in the membership to make this work. Okay, great, fantastic. And that's all you focus on, right? That's the thing. Now there's things around them that how are you going to do it? Like, what's the marketing look like? Whatever. But anything other ideas that come into play are going in the parking lot. And that's where the brain dump comes in. So I'm challenging myself every single day on what I'm working on. And I challenge the idea, is this going to make this boat go faster? Like in this quarter, which it's not. So it's going to go into in my case, I put it in Notion, I write it down. It's in the parking lot. It's over there. And I can show you a whole bunch of stuff that's got backlog tag on it, right? Or idea tag on it. It's just there. So that's how I deal with it, is because this is the main thing. And that takes discipline. It's not easy to do. It's
Oh,
not easy, especially as a creative or ADD person. And anybody out there, you know what I'm talking about when you're ADD like this. But if I hadn't done this discipline, then I would never be able to get anything done, because I'm doing little pieces of everything, right? So this matters to me. But there's more work. I mean, this is just not a blanket answer where it's like, oh, just write down what you want to have the goals and just focus on that. Like, that's the blanket statement. But there's a whole bunch of, as you know, Lauren, deeper work that goes into it,
yeah.
right? What does my life look like? What do I want? All these things that have to deal with before you make that decision on what do I want this month or what do I want this year. I don't know if I answered the question. If I haven't, let's dig
Yeah.
further.
No, 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 no. No, you have. Um, so it's interesting that what you said, because so I'm what you said about, is it going to move things forward this quarter? Like, what is my goal this quarter? Is it going to move it forward? And then that's what I'm going to focus on, right?
Right.
Right. And then if there's anything else that's not going to move the needle for the goal that I have this quarter, then it waits till Q2, for
Yes.
example.
Or further.
Right.
Yes.
Or
Yes.
further. So so it's interesting what I'm working on. So two specific things. So one would get me a result this quarter for sure. But the other thing that will get a result maybe in 2 or 3 months, the magnitude of that is so great, potential magnitude of it, is that it's hard. I'm finding it hard not to put everything into it to get that to happen quicker, because I know. So the thing that could help most in the short term is actually not getting as much attention, and it should, because it's not any less important. But this is maybe where, the ADD kind of comes in, and I'm not, but it's like I keep getting pulled to this other thing. And so it's just interesting how you look at it. And I didn't articulate it, but I felt it.
Right.
This is what's
Right.
going to move the needle this quarter. But if I work on
Yeah.
the other thing, then the needle will get moved in Q2 way faster.
Okay. Well, then that supports Q2. That's a different thing. So it's like, if I was coaching you and I would challenge you on, like, okay, what's the goal at the end of the year? What's the thing? And then, you know how to break it all down in the quarters. Here's
Yes,
move
yes,
one, move
yes.
two, move three, right? So you're telling me that move 3 and 4, or sorry, move 2 and 3 are the bigger impact, but that you're doing something in move number 1, which is Q1, that's going to help fund or move the other 2 quarters along, right? Or the next 2 moves along. So in that case, then you're doing the right thing. But if in this quarter you're also doing work over here. I'm not saying don't ever do work, but that would be like 20%. 20% of those
Right.
other things. But the main focus would be here so that you can get it out of the way. But what most people do is they don't. They spread it all the way through, and they're doing it all year long, and then they never get anything really
Yeah, and then
done.
they never get it finished. You're right.
Right. So
Yes.
we'll come back to this in a
Okay.
second. So Lorna says,
Yes, got it.
and then when someone else needs transition time, it can add to the time of multitasking steals. But multitasking is a great dopamine hit sometimes, yes. And you're right, Lorna, because I don't know if the right word is multitasking, because I'm not disagreeing with you, but I know that as I'm learning more and more about my own ADD, is that we can kind of multitask. And I want to be very careful of saying that word, because I know what Lauren was saying, I absolutely agree with. Like, you can't go from this task, that task, this task, that, like, back and forth. That's not what I'm talking about. But going between projects, or yeah, like little small dopamine project things is kind of like a multitasking thing. As a matter of fact, let me explain. Here's the example. today when I was doing some of my taxes stuff, like my wife was looking over my shoulder, and I had all these things open, all these tabs, and all these small projects that break the big project up into small projects, right? That's the way that I deal with it. And she's looking at, she's going, and I'm going, okay, well, I'm going to go here, and I'm showing her stuff, and I go, okay, I have to do this. Okay, wait a minute. What? Because I was asking her a question, like, what does this mean? Like, what is this expense, and where does it go? Okay, hang on a second. I go over here, and I put it into my note taking thingy, and she's like, holy crap, you got so many things going on here, and that's kind of multitasking. But what it's doing is I'm dumping. Like I'm saying, I don't want to have to deal with this anymore. Like you just told me what this expense is or what this thing is, and I want to go over here and update my SOP or my checklist so that I never have to ask you again. But there's so many things happening in front of her, like she was going, like having an epileptic attack, right? So, but
Okay,
that's just how my brain goes.
so you bring up such a good point, and so I want to backtrack because there's a nuance between pure
Right, Lana.
multitasking and like jumping from one thing to another. So
Task
multitasking
switching, which is what
is
Lauren has just got on the right on the.
right, right. So multitasking is I'm I'm doing emails, but at the same time I'm checking something else. You
Yeah, you're trying
literally
to
are
write a
trying to do
blog,
two things at
right?
once. Or
Trying to
I'm doing
coach. Yeah,
this and I'm trying to do something else. Like, but I am taking notes on what Joey's saying, so it's relevant. That's multitasking. Jumping from one task to another, Lorna's right. If you jump quickly, like 10 minutes here, 15 minutes here, then it's similar effect than multitasking where your brain like doesn't have, it's kind of like takes
yes,
time. If
yes,
you're going an hour at this task, then in 2 hours at this, that's different. So there's multitasking and then there's like task hopping, like like little spurts kind of thing. So when I think about it, to me, those are distractions. Like I'm working on this and then I get distracted by this other thing. So I jump to this other thing. Then I come back to this thing and get distracted by something else. So it's not really multitasking. So Lorna, like that's a great task switching is a better way to,
100%. Because
not a better way, it's the right way to
yeah,
describe
and
it.
that's what was happening with me is because I'm task switching between. Okay, I was reconciling over here, and then there's the other project over here, which is like create the report. But then because I did something over here that ignited a thought on the report thing, I'm like, let me just go over there and do this thing. So it's kind of task switching. I'm going into a different project, really, but the entire project is wrapped up into these smaller little projects. That's the way that I'm able to go forward because those small dopamine hits of I got this little project done, even if one of the projects was just print the reports. Like that's a project. And this is what I've learned on how to move forward and when it's in overwhelm because if you look at I'm pretty sure everybody's annual task or a tax list because we're in tax season now is pretty much the same. Like it's a really, really long list of checklist things to do. And when you look at that, oh my God. But when I break it down into like print reports, like that's a task, but it's also a project. I believe that a project is anything that is more than one thing to do. Like, so in other words, everything that I do is a project, pretty much. And for my brain, that makes sense because I'm like, okay, so it's not a task, it's a project. And there's 2 steps in that project, right? Print the reports, file the reports. Like those are the tasks of that project, right? And then when I finish that and go, I printed the reports, I got them done. Hey, yippee. And there's a little dopamine hit that moves towards, putting in my taxes for this year type of thing. Make sense?
Yes, so that's where my brain is different
It's fried. Yeah.
because, well, no, it's different because I I still like to get things done. I'm a list checker, so
Yeah.
I want that satisfaction of checking it off the list. And the quicker I can check it off this, the happier I am. That's my dopamine rush, right? So so even if it's something little, so say, I mean, for example, I'm doing a battle board, right? And I'm doing one column of it. And then I get an idea for another column or topic. I don't jump. I'll just jot it down on a piece of paper, but I stay in this one topic and get it done. Whereas what I'm hearing you say, you would, if you got an idea, you jump to the other topic, fill it in there, and then
Sometimes,
come back. Right.
sometimes it's only because my brain won't let it go. Like even if I write it down, sometimes um it just won't let it go. If it's a creative thing, so let's do that. Let's go the extreme. Let's go that I'm doing taxes and numbers and stuff, and all of a sudden I get an idea for a tweet or a blog or something. I'm like, damn, that's good, right? So then I'm going to dump it, right? I'm going to dump it,
Yes.
and then I'm going to go, and I can't let it go. So I might write a couple of lines really, really quickly just to get the thought out of my head. Because the idea is one thing, the thought is another, if that makes sense. The continued thought, or however you want to look at the
Yeah.
ideas here. Let me get my initial thoughts out. And that makes my brain happy because I'm like, okay, got it. Because I've done it before where I've just jotted an idea down, like whatever it is, make up something, right? And then I go back a year later, a month later, and it's just a line, and I'm like, what the hell what was this about? So in other words, there's no context. That's a better way of putting it.
Right.
So when I put an idea down, I want to get the context of what that idea
Yes,
is.
that makes sense.
And so
Yes.
then I'll move back and go, okay, that's great. And but I have to admit that I'm not perfect because
No,
sometimes
none of us are.
it's gonna take me away, and I will completely shut down on the other thing and go, this is fantastic. And then I end up totally multitasking and going, writing the thing out, going and posting it on social media, like all that stuff, and taking an hour away from the thing that I should have been doing, where I'm hearing that wouldn't happen to you normally.
No, but what would happen, and it happens, and it's happening a lot now, is I'll start on something, and as you say, it's like the ideas are coming, and I'm in a zone and whatever, and then, and this is so bad, I'll look, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning,
Mm,
and that's not good on any level, and
no,
so I have to discipline. I really have to get disciplined with that. But here's the other thing: none of what Joey and I are saying, no, there's no right or wrong here, right?
right,
I mean, obviously, you want to look at what you're doing and go, is this the most efficient, effective way to do it? And it might be a version of what Joey's saying. It might be a version of what I'm saying. It could be anything else. And there's no right or wrong because, as Joey said, we're all different. And what works for one person doesn't work for another. But you have to, the important thing is to find what works for you, what makes you effective. And then whatever your like Achilles heel is in that method, then that's what you want to dial in, right?
right.
Um,
Yes, 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 yes.
and we've spoken about this before. There are a lot of very successful people who their their standard of operating is you wake up in the morning, you do the most important thing, you don't worry about anything else, and
Mm-hmm.
then after you've done that, you get to all that. I'm the opposite
Mm-hmm.
because I can't focus or concentrate if I know I've got these 5 other random things to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I do, you call it busy work. I don't call it busy work. It has to get done, right? I'm that's distracting to me. So what works for me is I'll take an hour, I'll get all those things out the way,
The random stuff.
and then and then it's like free sailing. So the point is that we're all different, and what the main thing is to recognize what works for you.
Yeah, I'm like you like that too because those random things. That's kind of what I mean by
Oh God, they
ADD.
exhaust
So
me.
yeah, how you feel in the morning when you wake up with that. Imagine having that all day long. Like all day long, you've got random things going in your head and ideas
Oh my
coming in.
God,
So
that's
what you're doing is
exhausting.
you're clearing the path for you to because the way from what I'm hearing, the way you operate is, I want 3 hours to work when
I
I'm
want a
focused.
runway.
Yeah.
Yes.
So then you're clearing all these other distractions, right? And then you give yourself the runway for an ADD person. At least the way that my brain works is
That
I'm
wouldn't
trying to.
work.
It doesn't happen. Like there's never a runway of three
Right.
hours, right? It's never that. It's constant stuff. So it's like, how am I going to deal with all this? So anyway, let me come back to that because I got some points here that I want to bring
Man,
up.
that's tough.
Yeah, so that's I'm trying to explain to other people, even my wife. I'm like, this. Just imagine this, because she was explaining to me one day the other like how she
I'm
was
getting stressed just listening
frustrated.
to it. I'm
Yeah,
literally
she
getting
was like,
stressed just, I'm
she was
not
like,
kidding.
so there's sometimes I'll go into her office and she's working on something, right? She's working on numbers or something. She's doing something, and she'll go, "Not now, not now. I'm in this thing." And so then when I was explaining to her like how my brain works, I go, "Remember, you know the times when I walk in, you tell me don't bother you because you're in that zone. You experience that once or twice a day, maybe. Okay, and just I want you to understand how that feels." She goes, "I got it." I go, "I feel like that all day long. Like it never stops, right? So
Oh my
if you
God.
come in and ask me a question or something, it's a distraction, but it's not your fault. It's just like you don't know what you're interrupting, right? So it's like all it is another distraction coming in. Hey, do you want some coffee? Or what do you want for dinner? Or whatever, right? And so that's the way the ADD brain is working. It's constant trying to make
Oh
decisions and
my
getting them
God,
out of the
I'm
way.
exhausted just thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've been
I
able to
get
deal with it.
exhausted just thinking about like my organizing
Yeah.
list needs to be cleaned up. And
Right.
that's, it's one thing.
Yeah, so that's happening all day long, and I think so, anybody who's really ADD can understand this.
So
Um,
how do you manage it?
that's what I'm trying to get across is, well, here's how I manage it, but it's and it's more. I think that there's another level of it where we're not even talking yet about reactive emotions and the way that you respond to people and that kind of stuff, because
Right.
that's where and this is getting into an ADD discussion, but I mean, it's more of how I first had to deal with myself and say, okay, here's my flow zones, here's where I'm great at, because we'll get back into that. How do we deal with all this stuff? But then it was more about like, okay, how do I manage it so that I show up to other people so that they don't think like I'm a jerk or this person who needs anger management and all this other stuff.
Right.
So it was more about understanding that and then getting out an actual document to my team and saying, be prepared for all this. This is exactly how it is. Anyway, that's beside the point. Let me come back to that in a second. Do you have a question for
So,
that?
yeah. So, well, two things. Comment is one, it's hard. Well, my experience so far is that I think it's harder for me to really get creative without a big chunk of time because I need to like sink into it. Um, so that's interesting. And then the other, well, for me, and then the other oh, is that to know when you're at your best for specific tasks or
Right,
projects. Like for
right,
me, my creativity is, well, I guess it's because of chunks of time. Like either, you know, it's definitely chunks of time. If I've got a chunk of time, like I had this afternoon, but at night, oh my gosh, I can just write forever. And again, as I'm saying it, a big part of it is probably because I've got this long runway. And so I'm relaxed and I've got the time. And so it's easier to be creative when you're relaxed. So I don't know why I'm saying that, but
well,
I don't
no,
know how that
I
comes.
think that you're bringing up a good point. Okay. This was huge for me. I read the book, The Power of When. I don't know if you've read it. Okay. Brilliant book, which is about flow zones and for you to do everything. And so I figured out where my flow zones are. Mine's in the morning, yours is at night, and that's totally cool. So then if we're talking about now overwhelm and products or productivity and all these other things for you, then it would be more about protecting the night. Like, how do I not do the stuff that I should be doing in the day? Because I need to protect
Yes.
that time. So for me, the same thing is in the morning. That's why I don't have any calls in the morning. You know, Nick, nothing happens before 1 o'clock in the afternoon for me. Nothing. It's all protected time for me. It's very rare that something will happen in the morning for me. Okay. That's because I know that that's my flow zone and it's my creative time, like my true creative time. The difference, and again, like you said, there's not right or wrong here, but it's interesting because, and you're right. It's not probably, you're right that most people need um like a runway or a big block of time to sit down and be creative. I don't. I get inspired by one line in a book I read. I'm like, wow. It hits me and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm gonna write about this. This is so cool. Or it reminds me of something else, and boom, I'm on. Right? So one thing leads to another, and that's the power of ADD, of having all these ideas, because
Yes.
one thing links to another. That's like, oh, I can just continue to create here forever, which is why I wanted to protect my morning, because of what you said earlier on, where, well, the successful people say you need to get up and you need to eat the frog first, do the big thing. And I tried all that. I'm like, I'm not getting anything done because my brain is trying to be creative in that morning, when I'm trying to focus on
Right.
something that, whether I like it or not, I don't want to be doing this right now, because I've got this creative stuff and I'm pushing them away. I'm going, don't come into me right now. Don't bother me. And that's not the right way for me to do it. Right?
So I find this so interesting when you said, you'll read one line and
Yes.
then, now I won't let myself read one line. Never. If I can't read at
See? It's
least,
so cool.
if I can't read at least 2 to 3 chapters, I'm not reading one line.
Yeah,
So it's just,
so
I go like, oh my God, that would be so nice just to read one
well,
line.
I don't want to read one line. Like, I'm reading 10, 15 pages a day or 20 pages a day, whatever it is, sometimes chapters a day. But this morning it happened, which is why I'm saying this. So I'm reading the book and I got maybe 2 or 3 lines in, and I read this line. I'm like, wow, that is profound. And then I just got this other idea and I started writing a blog or whatever that was. And it's probably sitting in my Notion now. I can't even remember what it was.
Was your intention to read like for a chunk of time?
Oh, yeah, I always do. Every single
Okay.
morning I read for at least
No,
half an
but
hour.
okay, but so if that, yeah, you see,
But I'm not mad at myself because I
no, no,
stopped.
no, no, no,
So
no. Um, I would give myself half an hour to read. I
yeah.
would have a hard time stopping again if I'm really into it. It's a discipline thing for me. But I would never go, oh, let me just pick up this book. I've got like 5 minutes. Let me just read a page. That would never happen.
Yeah, so you're
Never in a million years.
you make me laugh. It's so funny. It's so, because I mean, that's where it's, yeah, this is a fascinating conversation, because I'm like you. Sometimes I want to go for half an hour at least, but I'll go sometimes an hour and a half. I'm like, oh my gosh,
Right.
maybe I should go get some work done, right? So I get into it. Now there are times, so on what you just said, it's so funny because let's say I'm reading for half an hour, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go make my coffee, because I do my routine all the time. I get up, I have water first thing, right? So as I'm reading, I'm drinking my water, get my first 250 milligrams, whatever, in, and that'll take, I don't know, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, because I'm not gulping it down, and then I'm gonna go make my coffee. So then, like, around the half an hour mark, I'm making my coffee, which is my bulletproof thing, which takes a little bit of work, right? So as I'm, pour dripping and everything out, getting the details here, people like, who cares how you make your coffee? But as I'm dripping, doing the pour, I'm like, well, I'm not doing anything else. I may as well read. So now I'm reading one page or a couple of lines, because now I'm multitasking. So I'm looking at the
Right.
drip
Yeah,
and I'm
I
reading.
wouldn't.
Looking at the drip, reading. Just like, how
No,
do I
it's never
maximize
happening
this
in my
time?
life. It's
How do I
never
maximize
happening.
this time? Okay, so let me get to the comments and then we'll come back, because I know there are a whole bunch of comments
And then
first.
I have an interesting shift that I have made that's more like in your camp. It's been interesting.
Okay,
But see the
okay.
comments first.
So Lorna says, we're back to the taxes thing. Taxes and dumping info. I think that's the ADD thing of putting something in its place, because otherwise we lose it, and it's because it's out of our view. 100%. Everything in my life is about putting it somewhere where I know I can go retrieve it. I don't think, I know for a fact that organization, when it comes to organization, and I want everybody to hear this, retrieval is way more important than the organization piece. Let me say that again. I used to get caught up in, how do I organize? Where do I organize? And you're probably cringing right now, Lauren. How do I organize it? Where is the perfect place for it? Is it in order and all that stuff?
Oh my
To
God,
me,
I
I
can
like
waste so
order.
much time doing that.
Yeah, I like order and all that kind of stuff. But it's more important for me to know where I can go get it, where I can go find it. Because of my again, there's just like
Okay,
all
I have
these
to tell you
information.
something
So
funny.
do I have time to go organize this? No, just go put it in frickin' Evernote, and then if I can find it, here's how I retrieve it. So the
Okay,
retrieval part of it is more important
you're
for me.
100% right. So it makes me anxious. Like I did it the other day. Like if I know I've got folders on my laptop and I know everything's not exactly in the right folder, that like makes me anxious. So then I'll spend a lot of time putting everything exactly where it needs to be, and I feel so good because now I know everything's in the right place. And then I can't remember where I moved stuff, and it's like I'm spending forever going through every single folder because it's been in the wrong folder for so long. I can't remember where I put it. It's annoying. It's annoying not having things in the right folder each. So that's the one thing. Again, people might be so bored with this. I don't know, but so here's another thing where you say you'll read one sentence, right?
Yes.
And I
Yes.
need a runway, and I function best if I've got the big picture first, right? I'm a big picture first. So before like the last like probably I don't even know how long, but not for a very long time. I used to, if I was reading, my thing was, I'm going to read the whole chapter first because I need to get the whole, this is more like workbooks, right? Not, obviously, not what, I never read fiction anyhow. I need to read the whole chapter first so that I understand the context of it. Then I'll go back and I'll read it again, and then I'll know like what the critical things are. I'm going, eventually, I don't know what switch, but I go, oh my God, this is just taking way too much time. So I'm proud of myself that I can now not read the whole chapter first, and I can start underlying things as I read the chapter and not have to do it twice. And I'm like proud of myself because that's so out of character for me, right?
Right.
It's just funny, these little quirks that we have. But you know what?
Yeah.
What is important, if there's one takeaway from this, and only one, is to have awareness of knowing what works for you. When you're doing something, why are you doing it? Is it legitimate that is how you function best? Or is it you're doing it because it's easier and you don't want to do what's in front of you? So I would say that the biggest takeaway is to take some time and just think about, how do I do things? Is it working for me? Is it bringing out the best in me in terms of effectiveness and productivity and things like that? And if it is, great. But if it's not, then I think it's important to look at, well, why am I keep doing this thing that's not working? Right?
Yes.
And then pivot where you need to, knowing there's no right or wrong. But bottom line is, are you optimizing yourself in the best way? And we're all going to do that differently. That's,
Yes. One of the
and it's going to
things,
change. Like, look what happened with me with the books, with reading, right? Oh, you change.
yes. One of the things I want to add to that is, I forget who I learned this from, but this is a really great way, because I talk about flow zone a lot, and and what you just said is really important. So this is an exercise that anybody can do to figure out what is best for you. At least 3 times through the day, set up a timer or an alarm to go off randomly. Like, don't just 12 o'clock, do like 11:38 or something, whatever it is. Just do random times of the day that you're going to forget about, that your alarm goes off. And when your alarm goes off, look at what you're doing and how you're feeling. And just write it down in a journal. Do this for 2 weeks. So it's like, I'm feeling really frustrated right now. So what just happened? What am I doing like right now? And then you'll find what is most important to you over 2 weeks. If you do this like 3 times a day, really, and you're like, oh, okay, when I'm doing this, I feel happy. When I'm doing this, I feel energized. When I do this, whatever. So for you, you might want to have an alarm at night, like maybe 7:38 or 8:10 or something. Like, what am I doing right now? Well, I'm cuddling with my dog and I'm watching some Netflix or whatever. Like, how do you feel? It doesn't matter what you're doing, and then you'll find out exactly what you love to do. That's one exercise that you can do. And then I don't know. You have any comment on that? Because I want to go and give these comments some love as well.
Yeah. And the other thing, like, we're all going to have to do things that we don't love. We're all going to do things that, oh my God, like, it's the last thing I feel. But there's stuff we have to do. So there's that piece of it as well. It can't all be fun and whatever. There was something I wanted. Go to the comments because there was something I wanted to say now. I've forgotten.
Okay, so Lorna says multitasking doesn't exist. It's impossible. What is it that I'm listening? What is it that I'm listening to? Writing comments while I'm working on body copy for my website. She's like, by the way, I used to be 911 dispatcher. I thrive on task switching. So yeah, I know you come from that area, and that's a huge task switcher, for sure. Task switching and distractions. That makes sense to me. There you go. They're distractions. And then Lorna, we're just catching up on these.
Yeah, I have a comment on that, but
Okay,
catch up
go
on the
ahead.
comments first. So, and again, I found this with almost every single client that I've worked with when we're talking about distractions, right? So I'm working on something and then I get distracted by this other thing. And so I go, oh, so I didn't complete this. And I'll come back a week later to coaching. Oh, I didn't complete it because I got distracted, right? And
Mm-hmm.
this is similar to what you were saying in a different context. If
Mm-hmm.
you track what you're getting distracted by, but you look at, let me say it differently. If you track what you're getting distracted from, it will probably be the same thing.
100%.
And so the issue isn't the distraction. The issue is the thing that you're doing that's either hard, uncomfortable, you don't want to do it. And so it's almost like you're looking for a distraction, looking for any
Yes.
excuse. But people are always blaming the distraction. Oh, the kids came in, this happened, whatever. You unknowingly, you're so happy when that happens. And so oh my God, I'm so happy. I'll jump to that and I don't have to feel bad because it is something that maybe needs to be taken care of. But I almost guarantee you will find a pattern of the things that you
100%.
consistently get distracted from, and guaranteed almost, because nothing's guaranteed, that it's things that are either hard, you don't want to do, or it's boring.
Have you ever done a time study?
I have, but so long ago. I had clients
So
do them.
yeah, so like I mean,
I
I
haven't
just
done one
showed
for
this
a
to my
long time.
clients before. Like we're doing time studies, like
Oh, yes, yeah.
every 15 minutes I'd be writing stuff down, and it's a pain in the butt to do it. But this is I did this last year, or the year before. I do them once a year at least, but when I really got into it, I did it twice in that year, and to find out exactly what you were saying, what am I doing, what's distracting me, and why am I doing it? So I would find sometimes. By the way, Lauren, yes, we'll bring up your other one after in a second. I would find that I was creating distraction by opening up a program, right? And in the 3 seconds it took to open that up, I was already in my email because I was bored. I was like, this is taking way too long for this freaking thing to open. Let me just go check my email for a second. And then I'm in email for an hour. Right. So, and that was just a pattern. Like I would want to fill the time, right, with something. And because of those filling of the times, I was being distracted. And then I would like, well, I'm getting nothing done all day. But by doing that 15-minute interval, which is a pain in the butt, guys, but it's better to intentionally interrupt yourself for 15 minutes over 2 weeks, like every day. What am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? To find out where you're actually wasting time, because you're going to, like you said, you're
100%.
going to see a huge pattern. And once I saw that pattern, I'm like, okay, now I know what to fix.
Patterns are the answer. When you
It
can
is.
find and understand patterns, it is so easy to change if you want to.
If you
But
want
when
to,
you don't
exactly.
know the pattern, then it's kind of like you're blindfolded.
Yep.
And often people don't want to find the pattern, because when you find it, then it's kind of like you can't unsee it, you know? And so it's kind of like ignorance is bliss, but eventually it's not bliss.
Yeah.
And so it's a willingness, it's a readiness.
Yep. So this is a
But
pattern. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. I'm good.
I was just going to talk to Lorna's point here, because this will help everybody listening, is that, or I hope it will. I was in this zone too, where you could write it down, you don't know where it is. So this is getting into a routine where, again, you can if you capture something. I'm a digital person, so I now have a capture system, but I also have, notebooks and everything else. And then, like, where did I put that? So it comes into a routine. So if you're a person who's like, I don't want to do that digital stuff, I don't have time to open up and get in the right folder or whatever it is. There's one way of doing it. One is to just have one folder where you have all your ideas, and it doesn't matter. Then you can maybe organize once a week or something. That's, again, the parking lot idea. Just dump everything there so you know that's where it's going to be. If the digital thing, it's called the inbox, and then you clear your inbox once a day or once a week. That's the one way. But if you're the other person and you don't like doing that and you are writing things down, then you still have to have a routine. Whether it's at the end of the week to go in and look at, like, have the papers over there on a little part of your desk, right? And then it's like, then you got to digitize those, or at least type them in somewhere, do something with them. Otherwise, you're always going to be, where did I put that information? Where did that go? So for me, it was about the inbox. Like, that's the way I started setting things up. In Evernote, I still have it. It's an inbox. All ideas go into the inbox. And then it's like the triage, right? So when a patient comes in to emerge, they're going to triage, but you're going to one area, right? Here's the problem. And then the nurse will, okay, you go over there, you go over there. So the inbox is like your triage. Everything goes there. And then you've got your other folders where you're going to put it. So every day, every week, go into your inbox. This goes there, this goes there, this goes there, done. But that's a routine, and that's discipline. And you and I both know that a lot of people, including me, I'm not blaming anybody else, we don't have enough discipline, and it takes work in order to do this, to get into momentum.
So I probably need a tech session from you, because I'll tell you what I struggle with is that I am such a I have to write. If I write a list versus I type a list, it's like, I can't even tell you like how different it is. And so, but then, if you write a list and then you have to rewrite it and you have to rewrite it, especially if it all has to be like neat and tidy. And so I know that wastes time, but when I write a list, I get it done. If I have type a list, even if I've got it on my desktop in stickies or whatever, I don't know why I've got such an aversion to looking at it. And so
Nothing wrong with that.
No, but I know it wastes time by writing, because you know how much time I spend rewriting lists?
Okay, that's a different story.
So maybe I haven't found the right tech to
Yeah, I can help you there.
I guess to satisfy how I need to feel when I do this. But I'm look here, I need a pen and paper next to me. That's just
Look, I still have, look at this. Here, where's my pad? It's right here. Okay, I still have I'm gonna freak out. Okay, this is my pad, my pad and paper. It's just beside me all day long. Okay. Now, the reason I'm showing you this is because I still use paper all the time. And this is how old it is. Can you see this logo on the back of it?
yeah.
That's how long I've had this exact thing beside me. Okay. And by the way, if anybody doesn't know, it's like over 20 years old. The same pad over and over again. And I just write and write and write and write. But when it comes to the digital stuff, maybe I can give you an idea right now, is if you want to use your iPad, I love Notability. Notability is, it's a note-taking app, so that you can write all your stuff down there and search throughout whatever you want.
Okay. I swear you're in my brain. So two things that came up. So one is we're talking about because the other thing is, like, sometimes if I'm writing notes, then I have to go and type them afterwards. You know what? That's annoying. So as you were saying it, I thought I should get an iPad. I don't have an iPad. I must be the only person on the planet who doesn't want, because I don't think I need one. And write it on the iPad, and then I can print it out.
Yes.
Then that would give me the satisfaction of a hard copy, so to say. But at least I wouldn't have to go and retype it, and if I needed to make changes. So you need to teach me how to the best.
Yeah, I'll teach you how to do that. Like, not only can you do that, but I mean, not only just Notability, but just on the iPad itself, like, you can actually have it where when you're writing it, it types it out for you. Like, when you stop writing, it actually types. So
Because
like,
then I can
yeah,
write. For me, it's the physical thing. So I'll tell you how I've struggled with this to not be, to make it more efficient. So this year I go, okay. And I've always been so organized. It's been so simple for me. And somehow, like, I bought a big whiteboard. Didn't work for me.
hmm
I bought a little whiteboard. Didn't work for me. I bought um, paper organizers, right? Where it had the days and check off boxes. No longer took me to find one that I thought I'd like. That hasn't worked for me. And I keep coming back to a pad of paper and making a list. But I think the iPad thing, because, and I need to write. And you know what's interesting? I'm so weird. If I'm writing like on a wall, like a whiteboard, like on a wall, I have it. It doesn't feel right. I have to write looking down. Otherwise, it's just.
not weird at all.
But I think I need to get an iPad because I see you writing on your iPad all the time, and even when we're in meetings and stuff, and then the next thing it's printed or it's saved, or I don't know. That would work
Yeah,
for me.
yeah, because it gives me
I
the
think I have to
satisfaction
do
of
it.
writing things down too. Because sometimes I need to that
I
process
don't
as
like
well.
typing when I'm creating. Like I like, obviously if I'm doing blogs and stuff like that, I'm typing like crazy. But like just day-to-day stuff. Okay, I
Yeah,
think okay, so this was worth. I mean, this I love doing this, but that's my takeaway. I'm going to get an
yeah.
iPad, and
Take
Joey's going to
get
teach me
that.
how to find the right thing and use it. And
Yeah,
next time I
I
come
love
on,
that
I'm going
stuff.
to let you know, like if it worked. Or am I
Okay, cool.
returning my iPad and getting my money back?
Okay. So Lorna says I do write down when I don't want to stop what I'm doing, but sometimes writing it down takes it out of my awareness. It's like a check mark of sorts. So I mean, when I do write down when I don't want to stop. Oh, so
Well,
she's
I
talking
think
about an
when she's
idea.
working on one thing and she gets an idea, she writes it down.
Okay, and then writing
Writing
it
it
down
down.
takes it out of my awareness. But sometimes writing it down takes me out of my awareness. Oh, I mean, I guess on the thing you're doing. Yeah,
Right.
it would take you out of awareness. I mean, your brain can't be on two things at once. That's impossible to do. But
But
it's
that's a
just
nanosecond,
refocusing.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
refocusing. So maybe there's something else going on. Because I agree with you, Lorna. Like I'm not completely focused when I write the stuff down, but I can come back to the task usually. So maybe just give us more insight on that. Seriously, I do write down something. This is the last one here. My Notion is so disorganized, it would drive you crazy when I can find whatever we need, even though I haven't organized it. Best advice, just put it in there. Yeah, that's the best advice is any digital thing that you're doing. And I'm actually there in my mastermind in my stuff. My coaching thing is I'm doing an organization with Notion and how I do these things that we're just talking about here because they asked about how to organize, and it came up with well, here's how I do it. I'm going to show you what I do. Doesn't mean you have to do it my way, but I'm going to show you how I got out of it because of all the stuff we talked about today. Because I'm so ADD, and my stuff was like I would probably take home the trophy for the most disorganized area ever. You know, and being able to
Ah, I think
organize
you're
some of
very
it.
organized.
Well, it looks that way now. Well, it might look that way now, but it wasn't like that before, and it's still disorganized in a way. But again, it's focusing on what's the most important thing? The most important thing is retrieval. Once I understood that, it didn't matter. I mean, it matters to a degree that they're like, folders are set up the same way across all devices. They're all the same folders, right? So that means it's only going to be in one of four places, and there's always a central place, which is for me it's Notion. So the very first place I'm going to go to look for something is Notion. And because it's connected everywhere else to Google Drive and all that, I can still have it in Notion, but it lives on Google Drive. Like, okay, cool. Right. So I only have to go to one place, and usually that's where I'm going to find it. But if it's not there, then I'm going to go in step by step. Okay, then I'm going to go to my computer. It's not there. Okay, I'm going to go to Dropbox. Okay, it's not there. Or no, Google Drive, then Dropbox, and then iCloud. Like that's the process of where is it going to be? But it's going to be in the same folder. So if I'm talking about, I don't know, a copywriting checklist that I have, right? It's like, where did I put it? So if it's not in Notion, it's going to be in one of those other four places in the same folder called copywriting, right? So I'm not losing it. And one other thing is if it's not in any of those, it would be in the triage box or the inbox or the parking lot of something. So it's easy for me to find it within a minute.
Okay, so I know what I need, and you're going to have to help me with this. I'm going to go offline. I need
100%.
I need something, iPad or whatever, where I can write like I normally would on paper, but then, as you say, it's either then typing it so that so it's legible or whatever, or I can print it out. But I
Yep.
need freedom. I need freedom to write however. Okay, so you're going to
Okay.
help me with that. You're going to set me up.
100%. Yep. Great discussion. There's a couple other things we can talk about, but I know you got to go, and we've kept everybody long as long as it is
Oh my God!
now.
I hope they don't think like we're crazy.
No, this is like regular
I find
entrepreneurship.
it
This is what happens.
Well, I'm excited to do this iPad thing. So we'll have to connect. Because that's the other thing. I'm the most impatient person. Like, if I wasn't so exhausted and I didn't still have stuff to do, I'd be going and buying an iPad right now. I have
Okay,
zero patience.
so great. I love speed of implementation. So write this down right now. Instead of me waiting until we get off the call, a couple more seconds, write this down, and anybody else who wants this, write this down. So whatever iPad you want, doesn't matter.
No, you need to tell me which one. I don't even know which one. And I don't have the patience to research it. I just need someone to tell me this is the best one.
I'm buying actually a new iPad now too. So I'm getting the iPad Air, whatever the new one is, with 128 gigabytes, the very basic one. I don't need the wireless. I mean the Wi-Fi, or not the Wi-Fi, the cellular and all that. Just the basic stuff, right?
Why don't you need the Wi-Fi?
Has Wi-Fi. I meant that it's got a cellular option. I don't need the cellular.
Okay.
So it's the 11-inch iPad Air, whatever color you want, doesn't matter. 128 gigabytes. I've had 64 gigabytes, never filled the dang thing up. So the basic is 128 now. So get the basic. Get an iPad pencil with it. Okay.
Can I get different colored pencils? I like colors.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, bummer.
Not an Apple pencil. You get a white one, but you get these little things. You see these little things on the edge? Mm-hmm. I'm going to share that with you, which is the second thing. Okay, so get the iPad. And that's, I don't know, whatever it is, $500 or something like that. Okay. Then you want to get Paperlight. Is it called Paperlight? 1 second.
I feel like I come out of Noah's Ark. This is when I feel old. I don't know all this tech stuff. I've never had to know it, so.
1 second. I even forgot. And this is what I'm demonstrating right now is reason why you want to have information out of your head and somewhere where you can find it immediately. So like, I don't even remember what it's called, but I can easily go and find what I'm looking for, which is Paperlike. So it's a screen protector that goes on your iPad. Just look it up, Paperlike on the internets, and that will, when you're writing on your iPad, it'll make it feel like you're writing on paper.
What's
instead of on the glass.
Paperlight.
Paperlike.
Oh, Paperlike. Okay.
Let me just see if I'm right about that.
I'll send you everything before I buy it so you can check it.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get a 2-for-1. Do you think we can get a 2-for-1 iPad?
Yeah, it's Paperlike, okay? And you'll see it. Just go there and buy Paperlike, and then on there you will see these things that I have on my pencil that you can buy through Paperlike again. And there's these grip thingies, and those you can have different colors. I think you can have either white or maybe there's a pink or whatever. But that's all you need. So I have Paperlike on my iPad so it feels like I'm writing on paper. And because I don't like the glass, it slides too much, and that's it. See, and then you need Notability when you get your iPad. That is your software, which is like $15 or something a year. That's it.
And that's going to take it in, put it into notes, right? It's going to type it out. Anyhow, I don't want to bore people with this. I'll
no, but I mean, somebody may want to hear this. They may want to know, like, what are you using?
Maybe someone who's like as old as me and feels like they come out from a rock, but I'm out. I'm out under the rocks. So,
yeah, and then you'll rock.
But I'm going to send you everything before I buy it. You're going to have to check it, because God forbid I buy the wrong thing, and it's
no worries.
not exact.
I got you. I got you. Thanks, Lauren.
Joey.
Have an
All
amazing,
right.
amazing
Thanks, everyone.
rest of your
Get your
day.
life organized. That works for you. That's the
Yeah.
takeaway.
Yep,
All right.
for sure. Thanks so much.
All
Thank
right,
you for
everyone.
watching. Let us know if you're here watching the replay with the hashtag replay now at the end here. And we will see you next Tuesday. Yeah, next Tuesday. Wow. That was
Awesome.
going fast. Bye.
Bye.